Good evening, everyone. Regular meeting of the Salem City Council is being held in person today, Thursday, October 23rd, 2025, at 7 p.m. for the purpose of transacting any and all business. Notice of this meeting was posted on October 21st, 2025 at 3:04 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and is live on SATV and Zoom unless technological issues interrupt the transmission. Absent are none. Councilor Jerzalo moves to dispense with the reading of the previous record. All those in favor? I'm asking that we all stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilor Patty Morcello. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May be seated. Salem City Council honors that this land is Nomkeg, a fishing place where generations of Nomkeg people from the Pawtucket Band of the Massachusetts tribe lived and passed through for centuries. We acknowledge that this is unceded indigenous land and also acknowledge the Massachusetts tribe who continue to honor and hold this land into the present. Salem City Council is committed to having ongoing meaningful dialogue with the indigenous people who have presence in Salem in order to dismantle the legacies of oppression and inequities that persist today. Thank you. Public testimony. Public testimony is not to exceed 15 minutes. Public testimony is not a public hearing or question and answer period. Sign-up must occur 30 minutes prior to the meeting. The president shall, depending on the number of speakers, set a time limit not to exceed 3 minutes, which each individual presenting testimony must abide by. We have 2 speakers signed up today for public comment. We will take the first, who I believe is in the room, Mr. Tim Hay.
Good evening, Tim Haig, 24 Boardman Street. President, members of the council, just wanted to thank you for hearing our request to keep the Bumbleina patio in place year-round. I think you've probably seen over the last couple of years we've done a lot of work to create something that's beautiful and maybe more substantial than was ever originally intended by what the outdoor dining policy was originally set out for. I think that we will be able to continue using the patio through the next couple of months, and I believe it would be a shame to dismantle it as it stands right now to rebuild it next year. We are open 7 days a week. We have employees there from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. every day. Regarding snowfall, we will shovel around the entire patio, including the sidewalk and the cycle path during business hours. When it does snow, we shovel every hour because we want to maintain access to the restaurant. Just want to make myself available if any questions arise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Haig. And last we have in Zoom, Mr. Ray Joden. Mr. Joden, can you hear us?
Hello, thank you. First, I'd like to thank the council for letting me speak. The Department of Public Services respectfully urges the City Council to uphold the existing moratorium on prohibiting outdoor parklets, especially past November. While the department fully supports our local businesses and values the success of downtown seasonal outdoor dining initiatives, extending the program beyond its date represents serious operational safety and infrastructure concerns that directly impact the city's ability to deliver essential public services. As the temperatures drop and the winter maintenance season begins, DPS must transition into full readiness for snow operations, street sweeping, and leaf collection. This also includes stormwater management. Parklets in place that remain in place impede snow and access to the curb line and obstructing drainage outlets. It also compromises emergency vehicles in narrow downtown corridors during snowstorms. It's important to balance the economic considerations of private entities against the city's legal and operational responsibilities. DPS positions is that extending or selectively waiving the moratorium for any individual establishment would set a problematic precedent and compromise the department's ability to maintain safe and accessible streets for all users. For these reasons, the Department of Public Services strongly recommend that the City Council reaffirm that the parklet gets removed in November and deny any request for the extension. Doing so supports the integrity of the city policy, protects public safety, and ensures essential municipal operations proceed without unnecessary risk or delay. Thank you for letting me present.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony. Hearings.
We have held from the last meeting an order from National Grid and Verizon to install one jointly owned pole in front of 9 Franklin Street.
Appearing in favor?
Sabita Mahaber Sheehy, representing National Grid, 44 River Street, Beverly, Massachusetts. This is to provide service for 9 Franklin Street.
Thank you. Anyone else appearing in favor? Anyone opposed? Councilor Stott?
Thank you, President Presnowski. I would like to thank Sabita for meeting with me last week down, or was that 2 weeks ago? Time is an illusion. For meeting me down on the location to go over. I was a little confused by the request of 2 poles, 3 poles, where they were going. Yeah. I'm also extremely concerned about the double poles that have recently appeared on Franklin Street after the removal of the double poles that were there. So I'm acknowledging that you did say that a power shutdown needs to occur in order for those double poles to be removed. I am disheartened that there is no timeline or plan by that, and I was told to contact a different department. So I will be, I guess, as a resident nearby, keeping an eye on that, because literally every single pole is now double with no plan for them to be removed. All that said, I do understand the need for the moving of this pole, as it is directly in the middle of the driveway for the new development that's going on. So unless if there's no other comment with all that said, I would make a request to close the public hearing.
Councilor Stott moves to close the public hearing. All those in favor? All those opposed? Public hearing is closed. Councilor Stott?
Thank you, President Presnowski. I make a request that this be granted.
Councilor Stott requests that this be granted. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries.
Thank you.
Appointments and reappointments.
We have held from the last meeting the mayor's appointments of the following with their terms to expire.
Councilor Varela.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I move for confirmation by roll call vote.
Councilor Varela moves for confirmation by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Thank you, President Presnowski. Just wanted to thank the reappointments for their continued service.
Councilor Varela moves for confirmation. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Any further discussion? I'm sorry. Councilor Gerslow.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I just want to say thank you to Julia Beauregard for stepping up for the Beautification Committee. I just want to say it couldn't be a better person to nominate her for it. I just want to let you know, every Tuesday night, Julia and her husband walk with their dogs through the Willows Park, and they pick up trash. They've been doing it for years, so I can't think of a better person to nominate her for this committee. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson-Felt?
Yes.
Council Varela?
Yes.
Council Stott?
Yes.
Council Marcillo?
Yes.
Council Merkel?
Yes.
Council Gerslow?
Yes.
Council Harvey?
Yes.
Council Hapworth?
Yes.
Council Davis?
Yes.
Council Cohen?
Yes.
And Council Presnowski.
Yes. We have 11 members voting, all in favor. Matter carries. Councilor Varela?
Thank you, President Presnowski. I'd like to move for suspension of the rules if any of the 4 members would like to address us.
Seeing no objection, is
Thank you for this opportunity, Councilman President. My name is Nate Korpusic. I'm up for the SERC committee, and I'm actually very excited for this on for a whole bunch of reasons. And I understand that while this is a very small cog in the very big wheel of the machine, it takes a lot of those small cogs to make the machine work. So I'm very excited to have this opportunity, and I look forward to coming up with a lot of ideas and hopefully working with everybody in the future. Thank you.
Who would like to be next?
Hello, my name is Jennifer Windsor, and I would be honored and I'm very excited to be on the Race and Equity Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's too late.
Hi, sorry, this is my first one of these. I'm Julia. Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to get started beautifying Salem.
Thank you. Can we have someone in Zoom?
Tara, you can
Tara?
unmute yourself and speak if you like.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. This is Tara Donraj Roden. I am up for the Food Policy Council, and I'm extremely excited to continue to be invested and have a role here in Salem. I was previously on the Race Equity Commission, and I'm really excited to continue my investment here.
Further appointments or reappointments?
We have the mayor's appointment of Elizabeth Smith to the position of Deputy Auditor for the City of Salem with a term to expire January 31st, 2026.
Council Varela.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I move this be held under the rules.
Council Varela moves that this be held under the rules. Any discussion?
No discussion.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter is held. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's appointments of the following with their terms to expire.
Council Varela.
Thank you, President Presnowski. Also move this be held under the rules.
Council Varela moves to be held under the rules. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor? All opposed? It is held. Further appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's reappointment of the following with their terms to expire.
Council Varela.
Thank you, President Presnowski. Again, like this be moved held under the rules.
Council Varela moves that this matter be held under the rules. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Communications from the mayor.
We have per Master General Law, Chapter 44, Section 64, which allows a municipality to pay for prior fiscal year invoices using current fiscal year appropriations by a two-thirds vote, and for the sum of $12,802.65, we have an outstanding invoice for the City Council advertising budget for their advertising account.
Council Merkel.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I move for suspension of the rules.
Council Merkel moves for suspension of the rules. Seeing no objection, Council Merkel.
Thank you. I move for adoption by two-thirds roll call vote.
Council Merkel moves for two-thirds roll call vote. Under discussion.
Thank you. Yes, while the clerk was on leave, the June bill from the Salem News that should have been paid in fiscal year 2025 was filtered out of our email system and now needs to be paid. And IT has resolved the issue of receiving email invoices from them. As we all experience, every security filters, all of a sudden we'll toss emails aside. So that is back on track and this needs to be paid. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Watson Felt?
Yes.
Councilor Varela?
Yes.
Councilor Stott?
Yes.
Councilor Marcillo?
Yes.
Councilor Merkel?
Yes.
Councilor Jerslow?
Yes.
Councilor Harvey?
Yes.
Councilor Hapworth?
Yes.
Councilor Davis?
Yes.
Councilor Cohen? Yes. And Councilor Presnowski.
Yes. On the motion to advance $12,802.65 from fiscal 25 to fiscal 26 budget. All those in favor? All those, sorry, roll call vote. It is unanimous. Thank you. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order to accept the donation from Fantasy Island in the amount of $1,500 for the City of Salem Scholarship Fund. These funds will be deposited into the taxpayers' scholarship account.
Council Merkel.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I move adopted.
Council Merkel moves for adoption. Under discussion.
Thank you to Fantasy Island for their donation.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the $1,500 donation from Fantasy Island? All those opposed? That carries. Mayor's informational page, none. Motions, orders, and resolutions, none. Committee reports. Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. City of Salem and City Council, October 23rd, 2025, Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, to whom is referred the matter discussing granting of certain licenses, secondhand valuables for Game Zone, has considered said matter and recommend they be granted.
On the acceptance of the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? On the adoption of the recommendation, under discussion?
No discussion.
No discussion. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports. Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. City of Salem and City Council, October 23rd, 2025, Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom is referred the matter of discussing ordinance to amend ordinance, Chapter 24, Section 30, retail marijuana establishments, increasing the number of available licenses, has considered said matter and would recommend it remain in committee.
On the acceptance of the report, all in favor? All opposed? Under discussion.
I'll note that Councilor Varela has recused himself.
Let the record show that Councilor Varela has recused himself.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is was a discussion that really, because we had the chunk of time available before this meeting, because we had the Game Zone license, which took all of 3 seconds. So this gave the mayor and the city solicitor an opportunity to come in and talk through. We have 2 matters before us right now. It's really one, but it's the increasing of the licenses by 3, retail marijuana licenses by 3, with 2 reserved for social equity or economic empowerment applicants. And then the second portion of that is the zoning change to accommodate those new licenses. So that zoning change can't take place until we have a joint public hearing with the planning board, and then the planning board has their meeting and their recommendation back to the council, which may or may not happen this year, depending on schedules. So we had an opportunity for the mayor to come in and discuss this with us. So this would add 3 new licenses, ensuring 2 for economic empowerment applicants, to ensure a fair path for those folks into the market.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor Hapworth's recommendation to adopt,
It would remain in committee.
that it remain in committee. All those in favor? All those opposed? The matter remains in committee. Communications from city officials.
We have the report from the planning board regarding the zoning of smart growth overlay district ordinance, which would amend Section 7 Special Residential District Regulations by adding a new section, 7.4.8.2, Margin, Endicott, and High Street Smart Growth Overlay Subdistrict.
Councilor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I move that we receive and file this.
Councilor Watson-Felt moves that it be received and filed. Under discussion.
No discussion.
Any further discussion? Seeing none on Councilor Watson-Felt motion that this be received and filed. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter received and filed. Further communications from city officials.
Now we have to take action on the zoning ordinance itself.
Under discussion. That's the next part. That's Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I would move for adoption for first passage and to send to committee. So the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Second.
We'll post it with the Committee of the Whole. So it would be by roll call vote on this one.
Councilor Hapworth moves that this be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, License, and Legal Affairs by roll call vote. Under discussion.
So yeah, just to clarify the motion, it would be for first passage and to send to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, co-post with the Committee of the Whole by roll call vote.
Any further discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. So open to what the council wants to do here. I think for me personally, though I feel comfortable with what the process that we've gone under with LifeBridge and with Harbor Light and the information that we've received as a group and the years-long process that has brought us here, I have a couple of questions that remain unanswered, namely the makeup of the LifeBridge board, which I want to see a guarantee of a Salem resident moving forward on that board. Additionally, the local preference, which I'm pleased to see the local preference for the Harbor Light units, and understand that it may not be possible to guarantee that for future applicants, but I think there's a little bit of gray area there that I would like to at least have those questions answered in a committee meeting for. So that's why I'd like to see. I don't want to, we've got two meetings left this year. I would like to get first passage in, but I also want to get those questions answered before we hit second passage.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Presnewski. I would also support that motion. I think there has been a lot of discussion. As we all know, the housing homelessness crisis is heartbreaking. There's no one solution, one action that can be taken. It's decades in the making, and I do feel that this is a step forward that we can take to start addressing it. And I also appreciate that if there are a couple of lingering questions, this leaves open the opportunity to address those questions, but also keeps us moving forward. So I appreciate it. I'm not sure if it needs a second. Second? Oh, you already, okay, thank you.
Councilor Girzolo.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. I unfortunately could not attend the joint public hearing on October 15th. However, I did watch the meeting on TV and want to thank the planning department as well as representatives from LifeBridge and Harbor Light for their presentation. I also appreciate all the public input from the residents who spoke or submitted comments both in support of and against this project. While I understand that this proposal has been in the works for several years, I believe it still needs additional work before being submitted to the state for approval. Like many residents and neighbors of the shelter, I have serious concerns about the scope of this project and the lack of clarity around the services it would provide. I want to share my perspective as someone who worked for the Salem Police Department for 33 years. During that time, I interacted daily with our homeless population, starting when the shelter was a 10-bed facility on Crombie Street. I got to know many of the LifeBridge residents personally and understand that each person's struggles are different. I deeply admire the work LifeBridge has done to support those experiencing homelessness, and I know firsthand how challenging and important that work is. However, I also agree with many residents that the shelter needs to be more cognizant of the community's concerns, frustrations, and safety issues. It was concerning to hear that even some planners were unfamiliar with key locations in the surrounding area, such as where Steve's Market is located. This suggests that there may not be a full understanding of the project's real impact on the neighborhood and the city as a whole. Several residents made excellent points during the hearing. One that resonated with me was the idea that the $65 million proposed for this project could instead be used to help individuals move out of shelters and into permanent housing, breaking the cycle of homelessness, rather than expanding a system that may not be working effectively. Right now, there are 294 available apartments in Salem, some starting at $1,300 a month. I also listened to the planning board meeting and was disappointed by what felt like scare tactics, suggesting that if the city council does not approve this project, the developers could use the Dover Amendment to bypass local review. This is not the collaborative or transparent approach our city and taxpayers deserve. I strongly agree with resident Mr. Sacco's comment that if this project continues without meaningful changes to its services and structure, it will be obsolete before it's even built. Another resident from Chestnut Street raised an important suggestion that there should be a cap on the number of shelter beds going forward. I completely agree. A major issue remains the lack of outdoor space and daytime programming. Every morning at 8 a.m., people are asked to leave the shelter, and with nowhere else to go, they end up congregating around downtown and nearby neighborhoods. This is not fair to them or the surrounding community. Where are the job training programs, caseworker meetings, or educational opportunities that would help individuals rebuild their lives and become productive residents of Salem? Until these core issues are addressed, adequate services, daytime programming, outdoor space, and better planning coordination, I cannot support this 40R overlay district as it currently stands. Thank you.
Please call the applause. This isn't a public meeting. Councilor Morcillo.
Thank you, President. I don't think I'm overstating that this has been a long, contentious road to get to this point of voting on the zoning for this project. Over the last 3+ years, I have had numerous issues with the way the project has been presented by the developers, their tone, how the public meetings dissolved into shouting and threats, and the lack of ability to have a meaningful discussion if the room held more than 10 people. After previewing the concept to city councilors and other members of city staff, the developers did nothing further and allowed the public to start spinning the project. Councilor Watson-Felt and I finally got a meeting set up with the steering committee of GESNA and the developers, who presented the first concept and engaged in dialogue. Of course, there were questions and concerns from the neighborhood, and they were answered. Plans slowly changed to address concerns, and we now have a concept for an expanded shelter and new housing focused on providing a safe, secure home to those who are homeless or teetering on homelessness. The residents of the neighborhood, who in some cases are second or third generation living in their family homes, whose families helped to fund and build St. Mary's Church, are understandably upset. Their pain began when the Roman Catholic Archdiocese decided to close and sell the parish buildings, including the church. The church is not responsible for the city is not responsible for and cannot undo the harm done by the Archdiocese or the ensuing destruction of religious artifacts and murals inside the structure by a rogue, questionable religious group leasing the building that came after. The current management of LifeBridge was not involved at the time of this disrespectful action either. But that does not negate the bitterness and distrust felt. Before us is a zoning overlay, which is project-based, for the land owned by LifeBridge on Margin Street, Endicott Street, and High Street. The concept is to expand LifeBridge to bring dignity to its clients and provide better space for individual and group meetings and trainings to better service their needs and more effectively get them to a place of stability. Some in the neighborhood criticize the LifeBridge model, preferring a different approach. I don't disagree that there are many approaches that will help address many different needs, but the work LifeBridge does should not be discounted or minimized. I would welcome an additional nonprofit organization to provide services using a different approach, but that's not what we're talking about here. LifeBridge is a valued partner in the to the Community Impact Unit, and that message is loud and clear from the police department. LifeBridge is a valued partner to the city of Salem. LifeBridge cannot be blamed for those who are living in Salem without a roof over their heads. I have asked members of the police department, those who have been most closely working with the unhoused, if an expansion of the shelter by 20 beds will draw more people to Salem looking for services. They do not believe it will, not 20 additional beds. It would be different if they were doubling or tripling the size, but they are not. The police continue to say that for the most part, those who are here have a connection to Salem. And as we heard in the joint public hearing, every effort is made by the shelter staff and the Community Impact Unit to reconnect and reunite homeless individuals with family or other support systems outside of Salem if they exist, which is more likely to lead to a positive outcome. Back to the neighborhood. Whether the zoning passes or not, communication between the neighborhood and LifeBridge management and staff needs to be strengthened. Councilor Watson-Felt and I have been working on this engagement since the summer, which I think I would describe as some positive movement from both sides and much more to go. LifeBridge is a member of the neighborhood and can't just be concerned about what is happening on the inside. They need to, and have begun to, conduct more regular outreach around the property and in areas around the overflow shelter. The concerns of the neighborhood cannot simply be dismissed by those who are in favor of this project. That's not fair to them. To categorize their concerns as NIMBYism is disingenuous. They are guarded. They are distrustful due to the history of their parish. The neighborhood is broken over this project, and that needs to be understood by all. There are residents who are supportive of the project, some speak out, and many others stay quiet. They all live here and will continue to live here after all is said and done, and that needs to be respected. Not every issue is black or white. There's a lot of nuance involved in this issue and in so many others that we are tackling in Salem. Weighing the sides of this decision has consumed a lot of my time over the past 2 years, listening to and reading comments from residents all over the city, trying to tease apart what the main objection is. Is it the use, the building height, the history of the buildings? Some of the questions we have received about are, for instance, fire escape routes governed by state law, use of water and sewer and power, none of which is a concern. We have more than enough water supply. Whether the connections to utilities are sufficient, it's up to the developer to make sure that they are. Some emails are about the philosophy of LifeBridge, where their money comes from, and that other communities need to do more before this project proceeds. This council can't tell another city's council what to do, nor would we appreciate any other community telling us what to do. As some of my colleagues and city staff can attest, I've gone back and forth on whether I support this zoning. In my mind, I could oppose it to send a message to the developer that the communication was contentious, the public was allowed to take over and run their meetings, the process was dragged out way too long, and they should do more to communicate about everyday issues with the neighborhood. But what would that accomplish except to make some people feel better? Nothing. LifeBridge owns the land and they can build on it, and they have many pathways. But in the end, I have no opposition to the housing because the project was proposed and submitted as both a housing component and an expanded shelter footprint. The two have become merged, though, in the public's mind, and that is evident in the comments we are receiving. Harbor Light Homes has existing examples of this type of housing, small efficiency units to house those previously homeless on Boston Street. One of those apartment houses is in Ward 3, the other is in Ward 4. Neither has been problematic. In fact, the police department sees them as a success story, and they are. Tenants are thriving in these apartments. Neighbors have no issues. When someone has a home, they are not hanging out in the street creating a public nuisance. They are not camping in the woods or sleeping in their car or on a friend's sofa. They are living without the heavy burden on their shoulders of finding shelter and are now able to work on their future and live their life. I expect this to be true of the proposed Harbor Light housing on Endicott Street as well, so I am in favor of the new units. The LifeBridge expansion has brought some good questions. Some have pointed out that cities are beginning to move their shelters out of their downtowns, citing Portland, Maine as a prime example. This I need to push back on. Moving the shelter to the outskirts of a city did not solve the homeless issue in Maine. Driving around downtown Portland is all you need to do to understand this. In addition, Portland has a homeless outreach center downtown offering many services, as well as the shelter outside the center. Panhandling is everywhere downtown. It proves the point that you still need a location downtown near other services like food pantries, benefits offices, city services, and employee training offices and transportation. So moving the shelter outside of the downtown is not the solution many think it is. In the end, I do support the expansion of LifeBridge. They need to provide dignified and safe sleeping spaces for their clients. They need to step up their day program to better attract individuals, those we see and those we don't see, who need services, and to provide a safe, trusting space for those who need it. They need better meeting and classroom spaces to serve the needs of their clients. One issue I want to address in the zoning overlay is that the zoning overlay is project-based and specifies that 75% of the land can be buildings and 25% must be open space. Since the developers were involved in the dimensional requirements of the zoning overlay, I will be insisting that the submitted project plans stick to all requirements in the zoning, including open space. No variances should be considered or granted. There is work to be done on their part to move this conceptual design to something that now fits the overlay. And I implore them to keep the abutters at the table. And I implore the neighbors to keep communicating with LifeBridge and the Community Impact Unit about what you are seeing in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Councilor Hepworth.
I just want to note that we do have a Scrivener's error in here that I need to make an amendment on. I just want to do that before I forget about that. So I'll note that now. So that's where it says any municipal or local design standard not contained in section, it's a minor area, by the way, 7.4.8, it lists 0.1F. It should be 0.2F. Must be approved by the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities.
I second.
So we'll just need to vote on that amendment, Mr. President, and then we can move to the main motion.
On the motion to address the Scrivener's error, as stated by Councilor Hepworth, all those in favor? All those opposed? Scrivener's error has been changed. Any further discussion on Councilor Watson-Felt?
Thank you, President Presnewski. I just want to echo every single word said by Councilor Marcillo, every single one of them. I have appreciated her partnership as we share this neighborhood from a ward councilor perspective. I have been grateful to her as a sounding board and as a person who has been able to engage the neighborhood in this shared way. It's incredibly important for everyone to understand that we have spent an exorbitant amount of time listening and reading everyone's comments. And that includes the people who will not come to the meetings, who will not come to the table because they are uncomfortable doing so because of their position. So please understand that the approach that is on the table tonight, which I support, which is first passage and further conversation in committee, is reflective of that mindfulness and that contemplative nature that we have had with regards to this project since the very beginning. I reiterate, I too, as many folks in this room can attest, have been on both sides of this myself. And have done a lot of personal contemplation around my own ethical position in this. It has not been a perfect process. That's incredibly important for the public to acknowledge, that we all understand that it has not been a perfect process. If we could go back in time, there is a lot I would have liked to have seen done differently. I think Councillor Hepworth's concerns are extremely important. Specifically, I would add to his comment about Salem residents on the board by saying it must be a member of the neighborhood. The Gesna neighborhood must be represented in this in an ongoing relational way, in my opinion, and that is what I will continue to advocate for. The outdoor space is incredibly important. I agree that we should be advocating, every single person in this room should be advocating to maintain the guidelines established in this zoning to the letter. I think I'm looking forward to further conversation on it, and I'm hoping that this additional meeting, if it were to pass tonight, that this go to OLA, engages even more people and makes space for even more voices and more positions to be heard. Thank you, and thank you, Councilor Marcillo, for your words.
Any further discussion? Councilor Harvey.
Thank you, President Presniewski. This is another, like Council Watson-Felt just said, it's a tough, 4 against. My thing is the expansion itself. I have to agree with Councilor Drislow as far as getting some answers. I mean, every question that's been asked, you're not getting a straight answer. You're getting a roundabout answer as to what services they're going to provide or stuff like that. So, I mean, I agree with Councilor Hapworth wanting to put this back in committee, but I still, as far as moving it for first passage right now, I can't put my head around that. There's too much opposition in regards to a lot of questions that haven't been answered properly yet. Thank you.
Councilor Cohen first. Defer to Councilor Watson-Felt. Yes.
Thank you, Councilor Presniewski. I know that this is my second comment. I just wanted to add a couple of things. The public may not be aware of a lot of the content of the conversations that we've been having in our meetings. I've learned quite a bit about the shelter's programming, their day center, the way they engage in the neighborhood, the way that they host home meetings in order to talk through the way that folks leave and engage in the space around them, the way that they have members of the community that stay there that are seeking to clean up the park and engage in the community. I just want to offer that because it's incredibly important for everyone to understand, which we've said multiple times, that I think what we see and experience as most demonstrable and memorable in our downtown is not the whole story. And I myself am more supportive of this project because of the units, the permanent units, which are desperately needed and make a huge difference. As we heard Councilor Marcillo say, we've got excellent precedent of their success in Salem already. But I think it is unfair to characterize the current work today of the shelter, though I may agree it's not fully sufficient or they are working at their full capability and capacity because of their own physical limitations, to say that that doesn't exist. Because the work exists. And I encourage the public, anyone who is interested on either side of this conversation, to reach out to the shelter and learn more. Thank you.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President. Homelessness is housing, and that is a citywide issue. And even though I appreciate very much how almost anything to do with housing, especially things like this or public housing, can impact the neighborhood. My ward has Riley Plaza. I have lots of homeless people in Broadway, off of Broadway, in Palmer Cove Park, and the Transition Center Overflow Shelter is in Ward 5. And that shelter had an ability to house up to 70 people at one point, and is now currently able to house 25 people, and is directly adjacent to multifamily housing, 2 streets, Rope Street, Pond Street. And, I've seen and heard from neighbors of that shelter as well. I mentioned in a previous deliberation that for 8 years I served as a board member for Shortstop, which was a shelter for homeless children, 8 to 18 in Somerville. And we were a working board, and so everyone had to do something to interact with the children. Someone taught them how to take photographs and did an art exhibit, and my job was to help them interview for jobs. And every time I went to the shelter, which had 14 beds, I knew how many new people were there by how many trash bags were in the hallway. And I think some people might remember my remarks. No matter what I did for each child that I interacted with, I never felt I did enough. A former counselor today on Facebook said, Salem has done its share of helping with the homeless. When was it determined that Salem would be responsible for the homeless on the North Shore? There are many communities in the North Shore who should do more, and several should do much more. There are communities like Lynn, which do a lot. Beverly is stepping up, maybe not as much as us. And it's important that we encourage communities around us to step up as we are. One of the things I really love about Salem is that we live above our pay grade. We seem to be the first ones on the North Shore to do environmental stuff. We're the first ones to pass the specialized code, the first one to pass the condo conversion ordinance for housing. We have still the strongest wage theft ordinance, and we're definitely not the biggest community on the North Shore. And I don't mind us leading for a project that has wraparound supportive services with housing for the unhoused and people who just need services every hour. Another former counselor had remarked that we need a regional approach and a task force. For the past year, I have been part of the Community Impact Unit's homeless task force. And even though it's got Salem staff, a health agent, the building commissioner, housing stability coordinator, also has representatives from North Shore Medical Center, which serves people beyond Salem. It has Elliott, which serves people beyond Salem. It has the Department of Mental Health, which serves people beyond Salem. It has Essex County Outreach, which, for people who don't know, is people who are recovering addicts who literally interact with people every day trying to get them somewhere like treatment or a better place. And I wish we could show a video of the end of every meeting when the CIU person who's facilitating the meeting asks everyone in the room, is there anyone someone's looking for, wants to know about? And people will say, oh yeah, has anyone seen Jeff? And mental health will say, oh, I'm the caseworker. Or Jill from emergency room, and she lives in Salem, will say, oh no, they've been in the emergency room. Or someone's like, they're in custody, or they're staying at the transition center. So we do have a task force. It's headquartered here, but it's an attempt at a regional approach. This is the most important vote I think I've taken as a counselor. When the weather's nice, because I'm kind of wimpy, I like to go down and sit on the seating at Riley Plaza, and, a couple of people might call out to me, and I usually, when I get there, make the rounds, ask people how they're doing, if they need anything, and then I just sit there and for 15, 20 minutes, and I look around and I see people who, just like everyone else who isn't unhoused, represents the wide spectrum of people in our community. There's people who are resigned to their lives. There's people who irritate me, and I can't stand when they come over and yap at me. And then there's people who just need one step somewhere positive. It could be a meal, it could be treatment, it could be just getting back with their family, it could be getting a small apartment where they sign a lease in Harbor Light. And something that's really we don't think about is, Jason said to me once that over 50% of the people who get some supportive service at LifeBridge, even a meal, work. And most of them work in our community. Maybe they bus tables at the restaurant you're at. Maybe you'd never know they were homeless. And I think this says a lot about Salem. I believe that having Harbor Light and LifeBridge in the same space is a unique model that other communities should do. And even though Marblehead and Peabody aren't doing enough, and they should, and I just feel like this is really about time, and it's about seeing every person who stands in front of us, who's in our space, as the human being they are. I have waited to vote for this for a long time, and I know we're gonna have a meeting and hopefully work some stuff out, but on November 13th, I am really excited to vote second passage. Thank you.
Councilor Davis.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. Just wanted to quickly push back on, I think, a narrative that's being pushed out there that there's been kind of an unwillingness for questions to be answered. I think that I've actually appreciated what I see as really comprehensive kind of answers to all the questions. There's been lots of kind of opportunities, many public meetings over the past few years. The last meeting that we had, I personally felt like questions were answered honestly and comprehensively. So just wanted to put my 2 cents in there. And I also think that, every one of us on this council, including, those that are serving their first term like me, I've known since the beginning of, my 2-year term here that this was a project and that this is something we would vote on. And I really appreciate the work of Councilor Watsonville, Councilor Masillo, for, what it seems like a long, exhaustive process of lots of questions, taking in, bringing them to LifeBridge and Harbor Light, having that back and forth. I think that's really the kind of really proactive kind of leadership that Salem residents should be really happy with. And I think that, I've had the opportunity to tour the facility, have many questions answered, so that's something that all of us here on the council have the ability to do. I'm frustrated with what seems like kind of a recurring dynamic of waiting until we're finally about to vote on something to say, hold up, I have questions. That doesn't feel to me like kind of acting in good faith. I also want to kind of push back, kind of echoing Councilor Cohen's comments that I really appreciate when it comes to, pushing back on why are we doing so much, and what's been said multiple times about kind of this, if you build it, they will come. Unhoused people don't materialize out of thin air because we build shelter. And I think that's a really important thing to say. Unhoused people exist. And I don't think any of us take pleasure, us in the council, those in the community, whether they've been for or against the shelter. None of us want it to be the case that people are unhoused. But they can exist in shelter where they are safe and dry and have access to shelter, access to services. They can be on the street where they are unsafe, where they are at risk of those that want to prey on them. It makes it harder in terms of their journey long-term to find secure, long-term affordable housing. But either way, unhoused people exist. And I think that what we've heard multiple times is that there are the people that are in this community that are at LifeBridge, that are going to be at LifeBridge. The vast majority have strong ties to this community. And the very unfortunate part that I was saddened to hear is that at the end of the day, even if we approve this, there will be less shelter beds. So this idea that someone from another community that's living on the street is going to now move to Salem to continue to live on the street because there still isn't a shelter bed for them doesn't really track to me. So I'm really proud to support this. I think for those of us that do have questions, again, I'm proud to, I'm happy to support the idea of passing this for first passage, having that other opportunity for those remaining questions, and hope that we can do that tonight. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor Hapworth's motion, that this be received for first passage by roll call vote as amended for the Scrivener's error, and then placed into Committee of Ordinances, License, and Legal Affairs for further fine-tuning, I guess is the better word, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counsel Watson-Felt?
Yes.
Counsel Varela?
Yes.
Counsel Stott?
Yes.
Counsel Marcillo?
Yes.
Counsel Merkel?
Yes.
Counsel Jerslow?
No, and I just want to ask, we're not splitting it, or? I'm no to the first passage, but I would keep it in committee.
The motion is for first passage and bring it into committee.
No.
May I continue, Madam Clerk?
Counsel Harvey?
No.
Counsel Hepworth?
Yes.
Counsel Davis?
Yes.
Counsel Cohen?
Yes.
And Counsel Prosnewski?
Yes. On the matter of the zoning ordinance relative to the Smart Growth Overlay District, a first passage with the amended Scrivener's error and being brought into committee before second passage. We have 9 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. The matter carries. Further communications from city officials.
We have an order from the city solicitor that the businesses set forth below are hereby granted a waiver from the requirement to remove their outdoor dining from a city street to pursuant to the City of Salem outdoor dining policy dated December 7th, 2023, and as such may maintain their outdoor dining platforms on Derby Street during the months of November 2025 through May 2026. Bamalina and Witchside Tavern.
Councilor Jerslow.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. I move for denial of the waiver.
Councilor Jerslow moves for the denial. In the discussion.
Yes, after talking, and we heard from DPS Director tonight, Ray Jordan, this is for safety reasons during the winter months. For the snow removal, we do have snow emergencies that we tow motor vehicles on the main artery. They need to go from curb to curb. And this structure was actually built was built improper. It didn't have a proper permit to begin with. So I think I would leave this to the professionals, the director, and I would ask for denial of this.
Any further discussion, Councilor Varela?
Thank you, President Prosnewski. I'm going to push back a little bit. First of all, I'm going to make a motion for adoption. Under discussion. All right. So I find this a little reactionary and problematic, this memo from our Director of Public Services. In his letter, it says that this obviously compromises the department's ability to maintain accessible streets. However, my problem with this is one of the applicants on this is Witchside Tavern. Their outdoor dining has been out since before COVID. We have not heard from our DPS or our public health safety team as far as a concern for safety from that parcel. Their outdoor dining has not been taken down. It's been taking up the same parking spaces as it has since 2021. So with that, I really think that this seems reactionary towards one business specifically. And I don't think this sets a precedent. The precedent has already been set with Witchside Tavern's outdoor dining. So for that reason, I move for adoption. And if anything, if we have more questions about this, I would like to see this put in committee. I think we need to have a serious conversation with our public safety team as far as why they're making this determination.
Are you making a motion to put this?
So you know what? I'll make a motion that we put this in Government Services co-post with the Committee of a Whole.
Any further discussion? Councilor Marcello.
Thank you, President. When we came up with the guidelines for outdoor dining a couple years ago, we came to this particular issue of whether structures could be left out year-round for use in the winter months. And we kind of punted at that point because we needed to get the summer months taken care of, all the regulations and guidelines in place so that we could start moving forward. We have not built up, in my mind, or had a discussion yet about how to move forward with an outdoor dining structure being left out over the winter, and I have concerns. One of the big issues was the ability to plow around this structure, losing more parking spaces in the meantime. The one for Bambolina, there's a crosswalk there. I have issues about that. First of all, I need to say that I'm extremely disappointed that this is coming to us 2 weeks before they have to be taken down, leaving us zero time to have a good conversation about it and pushing up against the deadline. So I will say that. They've had all summer to talk this through, to come to this body, to have this discussion. But I will say, in anticipation of this going to committee, which I think it should go, because I think we need to have the discussion, and not on a one thing at a time, but overall where we stand. I love the idea of a structure that is built for winter use, right? I think we all see it happening in Europe, but they're not that. They're not those structures. They're more protected from the wind and the snow. I will say, things that I'm going to be looking for, that the owner needs to pay for the additional 7 months of lost parking. Any additional design elements to the outdoor structure needs to be reviewed and approved by whichever bodies were required for summer use. That's the DRB and the SRA and whoever else. Also, disabilities. If things are being moved around on the structures themselves, it still has to be accessible to the public. Every attempt has to be made to make the space usable during the winter months through the use of heaters, windscreens, whatever. The space can't be used for anything other than outdoor dining, not for sheltering equipment, not for using a barbecue, for other uses, not for storing other restaurant items. If it's there as a structure to be used during the winter, it needs to be ready to be used during the winter. I'm all for it, but I don't know if we're there yet, and I think we need to have a discussion in committee.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President. I agree with the last two councilors. I think this is a great idea. I hope we can, in committee, come up with something at least for this year, and then maybe have a, because that will define the policy. I do believe that this is more than manageable. A lot of communities, including Boston and Cambridge, have this all year round. And, a couple of weeks ago, someone told me I was the climate counselor, and based on that, I am going to tell you that this winter there's not going to be any snow, nothing to worry about. So we don't have to worry about that. But I hope that we can have the committee meeting. As Councilor Marcello said, there's really a timing factor, and her questions really are right on. I think these can be resolved, in a committee meeting, and we can get back to the council. Thank you.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Posnewski. I also support the motion to keep it in committee because I think it doesn't sit well that it's been out there for years and then all of a sudden it's a no, and I've never heard anything negative. I haven't, maybe others have, about the fact that that's been there, and I haven't seen this letter from DPS or the comments until today, which is late. So I also would appreciate a prompt committee meeting on this as well, and I appreciated the points made by Councilor Marcello and Councilor Cohen as well.
Councilor Varela.
Thank you, President Presniewski. I'll be brief in my second comment. When we wrote the outdoor dining ordinance, we knew that this is something new and that this is going to be changing from year to year. We're still in, let's say, the first couple of years of this ordinance. We need to really identify what can work for not only our businesses, but I believe that when it comes to outdoor dining and depending on where it is in our city. For instance, the site where Bambolina is, it actually, where we have the barricades, it actually narrows down Derby Street, creating a narrow pathway for Derby Street, which is a speedway in that part of town. We can see this as a benefit. We've only heard from one department on this. So again, this is why we need to bring this to committee and have a thoughtful conversation on how we go forward with outdoor dining in the future. Thank you.
Councilor Stott.
Thank you, President Przeworski. Upon first seeing this, before seeing any letter or anything additional, I was in favor of voting for this for passage this evening with a call out that it was good for 1 year, because agreed that we need to have these continued conversations of what does it actually mean to keep it open year round. And we need more than one line that says something about and responsible for snow removal. That said, all businesses and residents are also responsible for snow removal, whether there is a barrier there or not, along the edges of their property, the sidewalks, etc. I agree. I think Bambolina actually creates a nice protected bike lane there, and I would love to see that year round, and I don't think that should be removed. So all of that said, I guess we can continue this conversation in committee. Happy to see this move forward, because I do think this was kind of an open topic that we didn't really wrap up. So it would be great if we could wrap this up before the end of this year and get it done and really figure it out, because it's getting warmer and year-round dining is totally something that's appropriate. Utilize that space to the best of its ability and for the enjoyment of all.
And I'm just going to second Councilor Varela's motion. I don't think it received a second.
I think Councilor Marcello seconded the second. Before we vote on that, it appears that from the body that everybody would like to see this go into committee. So I'm going to ask Councilor Jerslow if she wants to withdraw her motion for denial before we take a vote on committee.
Yes, I'll withdraw my motion for denial.
Seeing that Councilor Jerslow withdraws the motions for denial and Councilor Varela made a motion to bring this into government services, co-posted with the committee of the whole. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Petitions.
We have the following license applications for public guides.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move this be granted.
Councilor Hapworth moves that these be granted under discussion.
No discussion.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Carries.
We have two, oh, sorry.
Or further petitions.
We have two claims.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to refer to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Councilor Hapworth. I'd like to see these claims moved to the Committee on Ordinances, License, and Legal Affairs. Well, under discussion?
No discussion.
All those in favor? It carries. Unfinished business.
We have the second passage of a traffic ordinance amending Chapter 42, Section 75, resident sticker parking for Pratt Street.
Councilor Watson-Feld.
Apologies, I was just using the online system and it was a little delayed. I am not seeing it in front of me. Sorry, everybody. Is it just adoption for second passage? Thank you. I got it. I found it. Thank you. Move for adoption of second passage.
Councilor Watson-Feld moves for adoption. The second passage under discussion.
No discussion.
Seeing no discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Matter carries. Unfinished business.
This is me. Mr. President.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to take from the table the committee report from the Committee of Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of no turn on red.
Second.
Councilor Hapworth moves for adoption passage, seconded by Council Morcillo. Under discussion.
No discussion. I guess the discussion is the committee report. So if I could make the committee report. The committee report is Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, co-post with the Committee of the Whole, to whom is referred the matter of no turn on red, has considered said matter and will recommend adoption for first passage as stated in the 9/25/25 meeting. But there's more to discuss.
Any further discussion?
Yes, so I guess the discussion would be on this is a list of amendments proposed by Salem Police and Salem Fire. So we've all received these amendments or these requested changes. So my recommendation here would be to take these up one at a time. And though no one was required to, I think that it would make sense for all of us to hear from the ward councilors in those wards if they disagree with these recommendations.
Council Applewood, would that be done here or at a committee meeting before second passage?
This would be right here. So these are a grouping of individual amendments. So my recommendation here would be that we take a vote on each of these individual recommendations as amendments. And then at the end, we vote on the entire ordinance as amended. First passage.
Council Applewood, go right ahead.
And I know we have Salem Police here. You gentlemen, Chief, and would you like to speak, or did you want to just be available for questions? Okay.
I think we'll need a suspension of the rules to allow them to speak if we need to.
And I'm sorry, and Chief Diane as well. Somewhere. There he is, behind Caitlin. Okay, so I'll start at the top here with these recommendations. So the first recommendation is Bridge Street. Bridge was the first one that I had, I'm sorry. These are just the changes, okay, so I'm good, okay. So these are just the recommended changes that had the 2+ signs next to them from the clerk. So Bridge Street, intersection with Flint Street, the recommendation here was to remove, so there's some double negatives that are gonna be happening in here, but, so they want to allow the right turn on red from eastbound Bridge Street to southbound Flint Street, which we had previously recommended making a no right turn on red, so they would like to remove that from our recommended ordinance. Any discussion?
On the discussion, Councilor Morcillo.
Thank you. Just to be clear, right now there's a sign there that says no turn on red. So this is a recommendation to remove that sign and to allow the right on red. And I will add that I don't necessarily support this because the road is a new road. It was designed by the state. This no turn on red was part of the design. It went through the process of the city review, public review. When I asked Lieutenant Tucker if there were issues, if there were complaints or backup considerations, there were none. I will also say that at that location, we are now creating senior housing. I can't remember how many units, I think 40 or something. If it's not broken, if that is working and it's creating a safe crosswalk, I'm not sure why we would remove it.
Councilor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, Councilor Brzezinski. I would agree with Councilor Morcillo on this one, that we just leave this one as is. In addition to the senior housing, which I do find a little bit concerning. The biggest issue up there actually is that there's a pedestrian crosswalk at the top of that hill, and people can turn very quickly up that hill, and they are increasing their speed as they go up that hill, and folks are crossing. When it's quiet, folks also jaywalk there. And so my big concern with that, and having driven it multiple times, all the time, is that you do sometimes come upon people rather quickly. And so I am, though I am loath generally to go against the recommendation of my PD. I really appreciate and respect their input. This one, I feel we should just leave as is.
Councilor Stott.
Thank you, President Presnewski. As the ward counselor, I'll share it with the fellow Ward 2 counselor. It goes right down the line. I support keeping the no turn on red sign there as is. I haven't heard any complaints about traffic flow or impediment there. I do hear lots of complaints about pedestrian safety at that corner. Lots of complaints. We actually encourage walkers, specifically from the Boston Street area, to cross at those crosswalks to enter Leslie's Retreat Park to then walk to the train station. Because in its current state, Bridge Street is not a safe street to walk to the train station on. So we cannot in one breath encourage pedestrians to cross the street to safely continue to the train station, and then in another breath, remove a safety block from cars turning into them. So for that matter, I would request that the no turn on red sign remains and we codify it in ordinance.
Councilor Watson-Felton.
Thank you. And this is a procedural question, Mr. President, that we just then strike this from, would be voting to strike this from the list of the inserting and retain the original? Well, we do because we're voting on each one at a time.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you. I know this is very confusing right now. So, so what we have in front of us, just if we want to think of this conceptually, is we have these recommendations from the original ordinance. We think back to September that we were ready to vote on for all the no right turns on reds that we were going to add here. Now we have amendments to that recommendation from the committee. So a yes vote on this removes the recommendation from the committee and accepts the recommendation from the police department. A no vote keeps the recommendation from the committee and denies the recommendation from the police department, I guess. These were all in committee. These all came out of committee, and these are all recommendations that Salem PD and then later on Salem Fire have asked that we remove from our list of no right turn on red.
Any further discussion? I think it's up to us to listen to public safety if they want to make a comment on this intersection.
I'd motion to suspend the rules, Mr. President.
Yes, I think we did that earlier. When we?
I think we did.
We'll do it. It was mentioned, but it wasn't voted on, so can we suspend the rules to allow public safety to speak as to why they wanted to change it? Seeing no objection. Public safety. Okay. Okay. So on this particular intersection, no. I'm going to the motion on Councilor Hapworth's motion that this intersection was slated to be changed by public safety go back to the original, not to be changed, and that it remain as a right on red. Does everybody understand that? That it stays the same?
That's not.
Boy.
Councilor Hapworth.
Can I say one more time? Sorry. And then just
no vote.
If you listen to the testimony or the comments from Councilor Morcillo, Councilor Watson-Feldt, Councilor Stott, that would be a no vote here if you agree with those comments. If you agree with the recommendation from the Salem Police, that would be a yes vote.
Councilor Stott.
Point of order, please. Was there any motion made for these to actually be amendments that we are voting on? No, so I don't think we need to vote on these. I'm just clarifying.
Okay. Right, this one is not being amended, it is staying the same. Okay. Okay. All right. Moving on to the next one. No change. Moving on to the next one.
Okay, so the next one is Bridge Street, the intersection with Webb Street. They would like to remove the westbound Webb Street to northbound Bridge Street. So this is Webb Street where you would be taking a right, crossing where the bike lane comes across. So this would be allowing the right turn there. Previously, we had recommended as a council to remove that ability to make a right turn.
Council Rosenfeld.
Once again, I am uncomfortable with this one, and I just want to express my position on that. Not too far from that corner is a crosswalk and another intersection for side streets. Visibility of that crosswalk is much more difficult from this corner if you are coming off of Webb and turning onto Bridge. I don't have a lot of concerns actually about people crossing Bridge at that intersection. That does not seem to be the larger of the issues for me. It's more about the immediate impending crossing of pedestrians just outside the visibility line at that intersection from that specific direction. I would not feel the same if it were coming along Bridge, taking the right onto Webb, for example. That's not an issue, right? I would be fine with that. This one I have concerns about because of the number of crosswalks along Bridge, none of which have traffic lights, most of which have nothing except a partially painted line. That intersection also is at the site of a convenience store, which is heavily used by local neighbors. So I, again, unfortunately, am not aligned with the PD on this one.
Any further discussion? Any further from public safety? No. Moving on to the next one.
Okay, the next one here is Derby Street, intersection with Congress Street and Hawthorne Boulevard from westbound Derby Street to northbound Hawthorne Boulevard. Let's see, it was the section from northbound Congress Street onto eastbound Derby Street. So this is the section that was brought up on 3 different occasions by Councilor Jerslow in the committee meetings and then again in the full council meeting. It's that right near the hotel. So you'd be coming off of Congress and taking a right onto Derby Street at the hotel near the Salem Visitors Center.
Councilor Jerslow.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. I make a motion that we keep the, to have right on red at that intersection. I'm very concerned with people. It gets really backed up on Congress Street that people cut through, and I've said this over and over again. I've done it myself. They cut through Pickering Wharf right through the parking lot, and that poses a very dangerous situation for the pedestrians. Nobody's walking around Pickering Wharf, and I know people do it. I've seen it, I've done it myself. So I think there's good sight lines when you get to the end of Congress Street to take a right. I would suggest, though, to put one of those no turn on red signs when a pedestrian light is activated. I would definitely push for that through the Transportation Department. But it's a very wide intersection, and there has been no reported pedestrian accidents or accidents in the last few years. So I would keep that, am I saying this right? I would vote no. I would vote.
You would vote yes on this.
Yes. Thank you.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really struggle with this, Councilor Jerslow specifically, because I want to take the recommendation of the ward councilor on these. Any kid going to Salem Academy or Saltonstall who lives on that side of town, if you're in Bridge Street Neck or around the Common or downtown or even in North Salem potentially, is walking through that intersection every single day. And I like the idea of a dynamic signal there. We don't have that yet. I would be happy to see that. If there's nobody pushing a button there, I have no problem with the car taking a right on red. But that one specifically, there's a lot going on there with the visitor center, with tourists, with that parking lot, and with kids trying to get to school every single morning and every single afternoon. So I'd be very uncomfortable taking a vote to allow that as a right on red going forward. But I don't do that without a lot of struggle here, because I think the ward councilor has a lot of say in what these should be, but that one specifically I have some struggles with.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. I also want to agree with Councilor Hapworth and respectfully agree, and because of personal experience at that intersection. I am through that intersection very, very often. I had an incident, but I know to be mindful of someone taking a wild right turn on red when I was in the crosswalk Tuesday morning coming back from a chamber event at the pantry. I'm through there almost daily, and that, as Councilor Harpeth has said, the visitor center, the schools, yeah, I'm just uncomfortable with that one as well.
Councilor Marcello.
Thank you, President. And I want to make this a general comment about the rest of my votes. It is not with disrespect to the police department or the fire department, and I hope that they know that. The whole point of this is to make crosswalks safe. And if the crosswalk light is on and cars still have the ability to do a right on red, they are not safe. We have heard people say this. We have had someone tell us that they got hit in a crosswalk. The whole point of this exercise, this almost 4-year exercise, is to put a spotlight on pedestrian safety. I have been starting the work of these activated lights that work with the crosswalk light that say, you know, no turn on red, and they're lit up when the crosswalk is active. That's great. We are far away from that. I am not going to pull any punches here. We don't know which ones to go with. That's a whole discussion. We don't know if our current traffic lights will even accept them. That's a whole discovery that needs to be made. The whole prioritization list of where these should go, first of all, to try them out. That's not been done. That whole discussion has to happen, and I hope it does happen, and I am running out of time on this council to push that along, and I hope that our partners in the police department and fire department will help with with the Transportation Commission and with other departments to make that happen, because I do think that that is the way to go. But in the meantime, we're still stuck with the issue of crosswalks that are not safe. All along Derby Street, that is the whole point. Where all the pedestrians are, where all the visitors are, where people are walking to get to work. That's downtown Salem along Derby Street. And that is why the original positions, the original amendments were made for the no red on red. It's not to create a problem for cars. It's not to create backups. It's not to, me deciding that I'm more important. No, it's not. It's not. It's to kind of bring some balance to the pedestrians who are trying to use a crosswalk and should be guaranteed to some extent that while they're crossing during a lit cross signal, that they have a safe place to go. If you have a right on red, as I have seen at this very intersection, and I've said this a couple weeks ago, cars still continue even when the crosswalk light is lit, even when there's crowds on all four corners, they push through that light. I don't know what to do about that. I don't know what to do about that aside from putting a police officer at every single corner to pull them over. People don't take traffic laws seriously here, and they don't care. And I'm trying to bring some safety. So I will be voting no on this.
Councilor Driscoll.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. May I ask a question to the Chief of Police? May I ask him a question?
Yes, we suspended the rules.
Chief, whatever happened to the, when somebody hits a crosswalk light, that the lights go red and yellow? Some of them, I think it's still on Lafayette Street at Ocean Ave still, is one light. But all the lights used to, when you push a pedestrian light, would go red and yellow, and everybody knew to stop. Why was that stopped, and is there a way you can put that back, that people would stop?
With the council's permission, I'm going to have Lieutenant Tucker answer that question.
Sorry, Dave.
Those have fallen out of favor with the state and the federal government, the National Highway Safety Bureau. I like them personally, but they're not currently recommended by the people that make those decisions.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Cohen?
Yeah, just further clarification, I think the remaining one in Salem is Lafayette at Leach Street, and our city electrician, John Giardi, said that that one is worn out, so when they replace it, it will actually not have the yellow red anymore, because I think it's, as Lieutenant Tucker said, it's not part of the state and federal guidelines.
Councilor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, President Presniewski. I like to hear my name before I speak.
Didn't see it.
I just want to reiterate what Councilor Cohen just said. I have requested them many, many, many times, even though I know they are no longer recommended by the state, because I like to think we can still do what we want, even though it's just a recommendation. But that being said, I have it on very good authority directly from the head of the Transportation Department that they will not be installing them in Salem.
Councilor Harvey?
Thank you, President Presniewski. Getting back to the illuminated no turn on red signs. Unfortunately, no matter what way we go with this no turn on red, it's more than just what we're talking about. In my opinion, and this is my opinion, I think that, and I know this has been going on for 4 years, and I commend Councilor Masillo and everybody in the Salem PD, but I don't think that, and this is way late in the game to even be saying this, but the proper people were not involved in the initial conversation in doing this. So if we just throw up a bunch of no turn on red signs, and I'm not saying that that's what we're doing, but what's gonna affect is now the traffic signals are gonna have to be reprogrammed in order to keep traffic flowing. If we take them out, or when you put more in, you have to use concurrent traffic signals, which would require rewiring every intersection to have that system in place. The lighted no turn on red signs is going to require roughly, I know that, there was a number thrown out about $8,000 per sign, but that's just to purchase the sign itself. It doesn't include installing the sign. It doesn't include rewiring the intersection to accommodate that sign to function. It doesn't include not just rewiring, but reprogramming. So getting back to Councilor Masillo's point, there are some intersections that are very hazardous for crosswalks. I agree with what the question Councilor Drislow just asked, red and yellow. I mean, most kids were taught in school, red and yellow meant cross. That's what we were taught in driving school. But no matter how we handle this situation, I think that moving forward with what we're doing, I think the proper people, including John Giardi and all those, need to be involved in the discussion when it comes to the lighted signs or whatever, because it's more than just tossing a sign up on a pole. It's very involved, no matter how we go, whether we use those signs or just no turn on red signs, taking them out, putting them in. It all has to do with traffic flow, and that all has to do with wiring and programming within the intersections, which is, the only reason I know this is because a company I work for installs traffic light signals. So it's not a simple process, no matter how we go with it. So we really have to think, and I know we have thought long and hard about what we're doing, but again, the proper people have to be involved, and it's more than just Salem PD. With all due respect, this police department, they're driving cruisers, they're driving cars, they're driving motorcycles, or even bicycles. When you get to the fire department, they have, I don't even know how many tons those trucks are, but if there's traffic in an intersection, they can't maneuver around all that traffic like a police car can. So this is why I'm saying that I think all these entities need to be involved in this whole process. Thank you.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President. I saw Chief Miller yesterday, and I said to him, I couldn't be more sick of any subject than red on red. I've been on OLA for 4 years, and when Councilor Marcillo brought this up, I believe that, if you put 100 people in a room, public safety, counselors, pedestrians, drivers, whatever, you'd never come to the same conclusion on every intersection. And the year that we spent with joint meetings, the Transportation Commission and OLA, I was the liaison to the Transportation Commission, and these were thorough meetings. Councilor Presnewski knows because he's joined me. I have regularly had field trips with Lieutenant Tucker, Director Kucharski, myself, whether it's resident parking or this intersection or how come there's whatever. And Councilor Presnewski's joined me a few times. I feel like we've been really thorough about this. I do want to say this because I spoke to both the chief and to Councilor Marcillo this week. Yeah, it's a little late in the process, but I really appreciate this review. I've actually changed my mind based on things. I appreciate that the public safety people have, agreed with a lot of the ones that we have proposed. And I'm going to make 3 motions today for 3 in my ward, and my opinion has changed based on the feedback. But I really feel like we've rarely, on any subject, had this thorough process. So even though it was late in the game, I'm very appreciative that the fact that public safety people have given us the information they have, because obviously, their thought process is good weight for us. And one of the things that really affected me after Councilor Marcillo sent us the email, because I truthfully didn't understand until she sent the pictures of dynamic red on red. I really didn't know what that was. It's really changed my mind about things. And even if it costs more money, I think it's a big step to get these intersections where they need to be. I also feel like, to Councilor Marcillo's point, we're a complete streets community, and that's safety for the bicyclist, pedestrian, and vehicle, but it starts with the pedestrian first. That's how you make the street safe for everyone. Thank you.
Councilor Stott.
Thank you, President. For this specific intersection, I want to say that I do respect the voice of a ward councillor. I just don't agree with the reasoning. I feel this is such a pedestrian-heavy crossing, specifically going to the schools, the parking garage right there, the visitors to the wharf, that to really keep this as safe for them. Multiple members of this council have said we've all had personal experience there of cars not looking and doing a quick right on red, that I feel that this one should be an attempt to try out and restrict that turning for the safety of all, for the safety of the pedestrians. But I wanted to comment that I do definitely respect the voice of the ward councilors. I also want to comment that I personally feel extremely disrespected by everyone else in the sense that this has been a 4-year conversation. John Giardi was at multiple meetings to discuss the concurrent lights and how they work together. We've had multiple meetings over 3 years with departments, with our Transportation Commission. And now at the last second, we are again going through these line by line because there are additional reviews. I don't know, like respect of time and stuff, I'm feeling extremely disrespected because of this. I don't understand why we just met for 3 years and went over these line by line. There is a Transportation Commission that has multiple members of our community in, so we can hear those different voices. I think perhaps we need to review and add additional members, perhaps a representative from the fire department in there. I would wholeheartedly support that, but I don't think we should have a commission that we meet with and they submit suggestions that then their suggestions can essentially be neutered and thrown away at the last second. That's not fair and extremely disrespectful. That said, I will not make any more comments, I guess. I think there's one more for my ward on these, but I support all of these amendments as is, so no edits, but I will listen to the ward councilors and the various ones as we go forward. But I just wanted to say that because it is just beyond frustrating to hear these comments over and over again about how there hasn't been discussion, there hasn't been review, the proper people haven't been involved. That can never happen. I've come to that conclusion, but we need to be respectful for each other and understand what actually did happen. And if we weren't there, go back and learn. And if we need to change something about the actual process, change the process. But this is just, I'm having like so much deja vu right now. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Public Safety, would you like to comment on this particular intersection?
Yeah, this one, going back to the commission discussion on this, it was brought up twice in different meetings. I would like to see this intersection go under a full review for traffic flow reasons. It's 1A, at least the left turn, right turn, from Hawthorne Boulevard. So I think the whole thing needs to be looked at, but we were just trying to be mindful of, again, not to restate the same thing over and over. We try to keep pedestrians, cyclists, and other vulnerable users, hold them in the highest regard because their safety is mostly in jeopardy. However, we can't completely disregard the motorists. We need to move them through the city, and we need to do it in a way where they'll consciously, willingly obey all of the regulations that we put in. So that's where we're at on this one. But that's about all I have to say.
Councilor Marcello.
Thank you. And this is just a general comment also. One of the things we talked about after the September meeting when we heard some pushback from the police department or their desire to review the recommendations was maybe we could do this as a trial period, right? I still believe that can be done even if we change the ordinance. Our ordinances are not written in stone. We go back and we make changes all the time. In fact, we make yearly edits to the water and sewer rate. Like, we go in there all the time and make changes and tweaks. There's already an ability, if, for instance, if a change is made to disallow a red on red to preserve safety in the crosswalk, and it does cause an issue, there is a mechanism for the police department to change that under a 60-day rule, I guess. Is that correct? And in that time, in that 60 days, the council can come back, have the discussion, and make the change if it's necessary. Nothing is written in stone. This is the only way I can think of to do a trial without, we can't write a trial into the ordinances, right? So in my mind, if this passes specifically for this one, let's give it a try. If it's an issue, there's a way to fix it. And we all have a way to fix it, right? And we need to be respectful of information coming in from the police department and from the ward counselor to show that there's really an issue that needs to be addressed here. And that's the way we move forward respectfully in that manner. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, I think in this particular case, we need to take a vote on Councilor Gersalo's motion to, is there a second? Is this? Councilor Harvey seconds. Motion made by Councilor Gersalo to keep that intersection as is. Do we need to do a roll call vote or a hand vote? We'll do a hand vote. All those in favor? All those in favor of keeping it? All those opposed? The opposition carries.
All right, 3 down, 7 to go. Here we go. All right, Essex Street. This is Essex Street at North Street. So it's the southbound North Street to westbound Essex Street. So if I'm thinking of this correctly, this is the Witch House corner. Southbound North Street to westbound Essex Street.
Under discussion.
No, there's not. If no one making a motion.
Councilor Stott.
I will just comment because I know it's not the Ward 6 section of North Street, but I'm very familiar with this turn. This is where we have temporary fencing up now to keep the pedestrians on the sidewalk. It's a red on red that honestly I say I will take it a few times when I'm driving to school if there's no one there, but it is not a safe right on red, and I don't think it's needed to keep the traffic flowing. There are not a lot of cars that actually take that right there, just in my viewing of it, and it's definitely not a safe intersection for pedestrians.
Council Watson-Felt.
I wholeheartedly agree with Councilor Stott, especially where we have the added influence of the MBTA bus that takes that turn, sometimes rather quickly up on the curb while people are standing there. I definitely am not comfortable with taking away the no turn on red at that intersection, especially given at high season, the quantity of numbers, because we definitely have folks in large quantities crossing there in multiple directions. Sorry, friends.
Any further discussion? Discussion from public safety.
I think, as previously stated, that's one of those intersections that experiences tremendous backup.
Could you speak into the microphone, Chief, so that they can hear you at home?
Apologies. That's one of those intersections that does experience tremendous backup, and we feel that that's that the right turn on red there the prohibition would contribute to the backup. That's our only point here.
And Council Watson-Felt.
Thanks, Councilor Presnitzky. I've debated saying this, but I have heard our public safety chiefs multiple times say, if we got to get through somewhere, we're going to get through somewhere. That has been said in this room many times. And this is why I am conflicted in large part. In my mind, there are just too many humans there. So I'm so uncomfortable.
Councilor Stott.
To make you a little more comfortable, I would like to remind everyone that this is an intersection that has the new and improved smart signaling that had temporarily concurrent green lights with pedestrian lights, and we received the feedback immediately that that did not work 100,000,000,000%. A pedestrian needs a pedestrian-centered, everybody stopped, nobody is moving, crossing at that intersection. It was heard from the neighbors, it was heard from the kids walking out of Collins back home. It was heard from the residents. It was heard from the tourists that just don't understand. We 100% need a pedestrian, like just nobody's moving when pedestrians are crossing, which means no right on red, essentially. It doesn't make any sense to add that there. We worked so hard to get that back. In my mind, it doesn't make sense to go backwards. The pedestrians need to be protected there.
Any further discussion on this? Seeing no motion, no objection, Councilor Hapworth, move on.
All right, so we'll move on to Highland Avenue. This is the northeastbound Highland Avenue to southeastbound Salem Hospital driveway. So taking a right as you're coming up Highland Avenue into the Salem Hospital driveway.
Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you. That's my ward. I did discuss this with Lieutenant Tucker and the chief, and again, this is a pathway to the high school and the Horace Mann School. It's a very wide driveway. Apparently, there is a crosswalk light there, but there is not a painted crosswalk. So, I'm not sure how much of an issue this is that the presence of a no red on red would back up traffic. Thoughts?
You may be right on not causing an issue by prohibiting it. We looked at, on that approach, the anticipated number of people who might make the right. there's no crosswalk right at the stop line, and there's no traffic approaching from the left because it's a T intersection essentially. So you're at a red light, your attention would not be drawn to the left for pedestrians or traffic, so you would be looking at the red light and to your right, so we felt like you could safely make that turn.
If I may add one more comment to address the idea of public safety vehicles getting through. Police cars most maneuverable, and we can pretty much be sure of getting a police car through almost anywhere. Right? Less so fire trucks and ambulances. So this particular for all of our comments, we tried to take into account our public safety partners. Yes, the fire department, but also EMS. Who are not.
So, I mean, this is not like on the top of my list, I have to say. So I'll make a motion to include this recommendation, and I will follow up to get a painted crosswalk there as well. There is a light there. I don't think there's a whole lot of people that do that right on red. And if people think that it would help in the case of an emergency vehicle on Highland Avenue, I have no problem with that. So I will make the motion to strike this one.
Councilor Cohen. Oh, second. Motion seconded by Councilor Cohen. Any further discussion? All those in favor of Councilor Marsillo's motion to strike this on the note right on red? Carries. Councilor Hapworth.
All right, next one is Highland Avenue, northeast bound Highland Avenue to southeast bound Wilson Street.
Councilor Marsillo.
Thank you, President. Look how willing I am to work with you guys. I will strike to remove this until we get the sign, until we get the state to approve the sign to go up. But in the meantime, it doesn't make sense to muddy up the ordinances with something that we can't put a sign on yet.
Councilor Stott.
Thank you, President Prezinski. I just want to comment. I heard multiple comments from my friends that are often driving their students to Salem High School that this is needed. So I understand the restrictions as to why we cannot put it up, but cars blast around that corner, and within 20 feet, there's a crosswalk, not at the intersection, but further down, that kids try to cross and cars are blasting through. Also, with the two right turns, there's just been a lot of like mucky happenings at that corner and intersection that everyone that I spoke to was like, oh, good, we're getting a no right on all, because one, it's not enforced, and the other two where it needs to be, and it needs to just be totally stopped there for the safety of the kids that are trying to cross at that crosswalk. So while I understand why it can't be put into place now with it being the state road and needs to go through the review process, I just want to state my support for when we can get this put in, that it's put in.
Do I have a second on Councilor Marsillo's?
And I'll second Councilor Marsillo's motion.
Councilor Stott seconds. All those in favor? All those opposed? That one remains the same. Councilor Varela. Councilor Hapworth.
Okay, now we are at Lafayette Street.
I'll take it.
Southbound Lafayette to westbound Harbor Street.
That's right.
Councilor Cohen.
Ward 5, thank you. Perhaps my best traffic calming accomplishment was getting a stop sign, Harbor Street to Lafayette Street. The little triangle at Habanero Cycle is, as Lieutenant Tucker and I have talked about many times, the most confusing intersection. It's like, I don't even know what it is. Everyone has a two-way path, and everyone thinks they have the right of way, so we have a stop sign there. It's less than a block from this intersection. And the interesting thing is that Harbor Street going west from Congress Street is a one-way. So the one-way goes into like a two-way, and we're eliminating, the right on red as you go south on Lafayette. I'm going to support this because I actually spent a lot of time at these after this review, and hardly anyone uses it. And there is good visibility. And I actually don't believe that this actually needs a sign. I think we just take it away. It just goes right around Los Amigos supermarket. So I'm going to move that we accept the amendment from the police on this.
Is this right?
Councilor Hapworth.
I was going to make one more motion, or one more note here, is that Lieutenant Tucker made a note where it says Harbor Street to southbound Lafayette Street. It should say Harbor Street to northbound Lafayette Street. Is that correct? There's just an error in here.
No, the intersection, the right on red is southbound Lafayette to westbound Harbor.
Yeah, we're just clearing up an error that was in here before that. Is that, Lieutenant Tucker, do I have that correct?
Right, the one we're discussing is not, there's no error in, but in the ordinance proposed.
Okay, so in that whole chunk there of Lafayette Street traffic control signal, there's a section where it says Harbor Street to southbound Lafayette Street. That should say northbound Lafayette Street. And then we have the section that they'd like to remove, southbound Lafayette to westbound Harbor Street. Just making a note for the council so that we're not having to change this
It
later.
should be eastbound Harbor to southbound Lafayette. Westbound Harbor to southbound Lafayette Street. Westbound Harbor to southbound Lafayette, we're going to keep the restriction. We're going to take away the restriction, southbound Lafayette to westbound Harbor.
Yep.
The two approaches from Harbor going east on Harbor to south on Lafayette, keep that one. Westbound Harbor to northbound Lafayette, keep that. There was just an error in the original ordinance where it said westbound Harbor to southbound Lafayette. You were actually turning north. I think that's what Councilor Hapworth was referring to. Very clear. It's all very clear, isn't it? So,
You're saying eastbound Harbor to...
Southbound.
Oh, boy.
West to south.
No, eastbound Harbor to southbound Lafayette is a left turn. It's westbound Harbor.
If you go west on Harbor and turn right, you'll be going north on Lafayette Street.
Yeah, okay, that's it. It's westbound Harbor to to southbound Lafayette. Is the right around the Lafayette Park.
That would be eastbound Harbor to southbound. Be driving eastbound and turning.
Sorry.
Yep.
Eastbound to, so it's correct the way the police have it. The one that I'm making a motion on, though, is the one that the recommendation from the police is southbound Lafayette to westbound Harbor. The other one is staying the same.
Councilor Cohen is making a motion for the recommendation from the public safety to change that one to allow right on red. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Varela. All those in favor? All those opposed? That one stays the same. Thank you. Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. And if you're still watching at home, Councilor Cohen has offered to get you a coffee, so just come and grab him. He'll get it for you. Let's see. We are at North Street. This is southeastbound North Street to southwestbound Mason Street. So this is that turn, I believe, right after the bridge there.
Councilor Stott.
I am not in support of this amendment. I don't know if I could say I discussed with the chief this amendment, but the chief did ask me why I would wish to keep or add a right turn on red restriction. So this is on North Street. You're driving down North Street, heading towards the overpass. So the Sit-Go Dunks is right there. And it would be adding a no right on red onto Mason Street. There's currently a no right on red onto North Street from Mason. The only time that light ever goes red is when cars are either exiting Mason Street or turning onto Mason Street, or there's a pedestrian activated crossing. These are the quote smart signals, so that only happens when cars are there for that to occur. Yeah, there's traffic on North Street. I don't think adding or allowing the ability to turn right for the first car in the lane onto Mason, which very few cars are going onto Mason unless if you probably live in the neighborhood, to alleviate traffic. It won't release the valve of the traffic that is North Street. What it will do, though, is allow someone that's 2 or 3 cars behind that first car that wants to take a right onto Mason Street, go into the bike lane, drive down it, and then take a right on Mason Street, because I see it all the time. So I don't want to encourage that behavior, and whoever is sitting first in that light and wishes to take a right can wait the 30 seconds or so to take the right onto Mason Street.
Any further discussion? Public safety? Moving on to the next one.
Okay, we are at, I'm colorblind, so I think these are the fire department recommendations, which were supposed to be green. All of this is, okay. Okay, so we have Washington Street so I'll start with the police, I guess. From southbound Washington Street to westbound Norman Street, and northbound Washington to eastbound New Derby Street. Eastbound Norman Street to southbound Washington Street. Right turn prohibited. So I think this is all of Riley Plaza. And then I guess, should we add in the fire department recommendation here too, or do we want to just take the police? Okay, we'll do police first and then we'll go fire. Yeah.
Under discussion, public safety?
The first one, you're on New Derby, you want to turn right onto Washington. When you watch the intersection function, that section of Washington Street as it approaches Townhouse Square is always very congested most of the year, especially now. Traffic will routinely block the intersection, create gridlock. Fortunately, after Washington Street northbound turns red, there's a pedestrian cycle, and that helps Washington clear out a little bit. The reason we want to block that one is to not add any more vehicles on that section of Washington. Coming southbound on Washington, turning right on Norman, there appears to be decent sight lines where you would see pedestrians crossing, and they're approaching traffic is pretty clear. The one of most concern is eastbound Norman Street turning right on Washington, because that's 114. That's a continuation of 114. Sees probably the highest volume in that intersection. Is making that right turn. There's a dedicated right turn lane at least as far back as the back of the post office. We are just concerned about if you prohibit it, it's a long pedestrian cycle there. There may be no pedestrian crossing either one of those crosswalks. It could be on a different crosswalk. I believe it's a 30-second cycle. This is also probably, it's in the one out of the top 3 where we recommend a dynamic sign to try that. And then the last one is north on Washington, going right on New Derby. We have concerns there about the queuing level of traffic if they can't make that right. We have concerns about it backing up, interrupting the center lanes of Washington as it approaches the intersection with Canal. That's all.
Chief Dion.
Thank you, if I may. 2 intersection spots in this one discussion are very important to me and my department, and we've talked about them at length with my department. I'll speak first, coming out of down Derby, take a right on Washington. As I've mentioned in some of my earlier comments, the right on red in particular at that intersection is kind of a relief valve. The traffic will back up past fire headquarters into the Lafayette Street intersection regularly. If the cars aren't allowed to peel off right throughout the right turn lane there, and we come out of the station, there's really nowhere for anybody to pull over. And that's why I'm very concerned about the change in that intersection. And to speak to Dave's point, I absolutely would put that intersection at the front of the line for dynamic turn on red signaling. I think that would be a really good choice for that one spot in particular. My next comment relates to the northbound side of Washington Street, affecting vehicles that would turn right onto New Derby. I'll partner this with the northbound from Canal at Washington as well. The comments will hold true in both of these intersections. Our ambulance provider responds either from the hospital or from Canal Street base. And when they come up to the Mill Hill intersection, there's a slight turn at the Ice House, the old Sammy's Roast Beef, or for old enough, Big Fred's. And the sight lines don't allow for anybody to move to the right if everybody's queued up. The vehicles that come up there to take the right on red do so regularly and keep that intersection with some breathing room. When the ambulance comes around that corner and it's stopped, the ambulance is stopped. There is no getting by. They can't cross onto incoming traffic. It's not safe to do so there. And they have commented to me many times that's one of their biggest choke points in the city. So again, another ideal spot for a dynamic intersection signal. Moving through that intersection as we come northbound on Washington Street, and there's 4 lanes now. There's one waiting to go left towards Norman. There's 2 lanes waiting to go north on Washington, and then the right turn to New Derby. And I come in that way every day, and all 3 lanes, left turn to Norman and the 2 on Washington Street, are completely blocked. And if those of us that are making their way to Derby Street, as I do to go to the fire station, aren't allowed to peel off and take those right turns, that would be a 4-lane backup, again, prohibiting the ambulance from coming through that intersection. It's a real thing that happens. The ambulance very regularly gets jammed up in that side of town. And whenever they're stuck, they call us and they report they're jammed and they can't move. I'm fearful that that's what's going to happen there if we put the sign on that corner. And then lastly, sort of related, I'm jumping ahead if you allow me, Washington moving southbound, right turn onto Mill Hill to the shelter. Again, if that is not allowed to happen, a lot of traffic takes that left turn and goes up there to take the right to make their way to Jefferson Ave. And then if we have a light cycle and it's all right on red stop, again, we're going to have 3 blocked lanes, and my fire apparatus will not be able to get to the hospital in that direction. That is the way we go to Jefferson Ave. We take a left on Washington South and a right on Mill Hill. And those are pretty serious concerns that I have. And I know I've jumped ahead on all these, but they are kind of related. And so therefore, that's why I said. So when we move the discussion towards dynamic signals, I think these 2 intersections should be at the top of the list. And I agree with the council that Congress Street should also be another one at the top of the list. If that's the way we move, I think it's something that is doable. The mayor sent an email out to us department heads, 4 or 5 of us, requesting ideas on what he could put for traffic signals to the council at a meeting in December. I think I shared that with a couple of you already. He's interested in moving forward with these dynamic signals as fast as we can, and he will be sending something, I'm assuming, because he asked us about it, in the December meeting. And I'm hopeful that that will come about, and then as a team, we'll work to get those signals in the places that I mentioned and then all the other ones that are just as vital. So that's my comments. I may have jumped ahead. I apologize.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President. I think all these are mine except for one of the Washington Derby around Dunkin' Donuts is Councilor Watson Felt's. And I'm not even thinking about the Mill Hill one yet. I'm just going to concentrate on the ones down there, Riley Plaza. And I asked Councilor Watson Felt if I could talk about this first because I agree with the police department and disagree with you. Unfortunately, Chief Diane, taking a right from New Derby to Washington Street, and this is the reason. I have never in my whole life seen so many people either park in a crosswalk or hang out in the middle of an intersection than they do going north on Washington Street through that intersection. It is like, happens every time of the day, all the time. Councilor Marcello and I talk about it because she walks it, I drive it. I am like, you know, my wife is always like, stop beeping your horn at people. I'm like, some policeman is going to be here. And I probably have beeped my horn at more people who are like in the middle of the intersection. They don't actually think that they're going to be, they don't know if they're going to get through that intersection to, you know, the north side, so they end up hanging out. And people who are taking a right around the Derby make it worse because they're actually filling that queue. So I do believe, even though it's Councilor Watson Felts, I do believe that I do support the police keeping the right, no right on red there. The next two that I'm going to do are the most confusing one because the Transportation Commission, and we did not actually recommend no right on, taking away the right on red, going from Norman south on Washington, and I had added it in, which is why it's an amendment. But I do believe that with the dynamic signage, that will make a difference. So the next one, which both the police and the fire department support, when you're going south on, north on Washington and then east on New Derby, where the bank is, there's really good sight lines. I agree that that's one that you can definitely see people crossing. And once again, I think in my mind, at least for my ward, those are the most important to have dynamic signage. So I'm going to move that eastbound Norman to southbound Washington and northbound Washington to eastbound New Derby, that we adopt the police recommendation.
So we've got partially over here. We'll check it off as we go along. Councilor Cohen moves to agree with public safety on, please state that again, Councilor,
eastbound Norman to southbound Washington and at Riley Plaza, and northbound Washington to eastbound Derby around the bank, to make those right on red, knowing that both chiefs, Lieutenant Tucker, and everyone else are going to make sure that those dynamic signage is there quick as possible, because, and I'm just going to say this before someone seconds it, I have seen a lot of people actually take a right around Riley Plaza while the crossing signal is on. And I just think that they don't actually know what's going on, and they're usually not from Salem because it's a state road. So, and I know this is under review from the WART 114 study. So you get those two? I'm going to move that we adopt the police recommendation and fire.
Councilman Marcello.
You're wearing me down here. As you know, this is the intersection that's the most important. It is the most problematic. I understand it is the most heavily traveled also. I would love to make a condition on this that we have a blood oath tonight to get these signs in as soon as possible. I would love that. I love to hear your enthusiasm for getting these signs. And
Lieutenant Tucker just stuck his hand out, actually.
Blood oath accepted.
It'll be out.
All right, so I will go along with this, even though it goes against my better judgment, and it's something that I grapple with this every single day, and it bothers me to no end how people treat that intersection. And I do not understand why we don't just put a police officer there to start making some money for the city, because you don't have to go very far to see all of the traffic law breaking that's happening there, and it just annoys me so much. And it's when I very nicely, and I want to say this very nicely, point out to the drivers that they're stopped right on top of the crosswalk and I have to go around their car, I get the finger. Like, it's my fault that they're on top of the crosswalk. I cannot tell you how infuriating it is to cross that road. So I am going to take you at your word that you understand the importance of what we're doing here, and that you will work with the mayor to get these signs in, because I do think that they'll make a difference, and I think it will solve some issues here. So I'll second that motion. And, oh, okay, forget it. I won't second it then, but I'll vote for it.
Taking up those two parts of the intersection, all those in favor? All those opposed? Those that motion.
For yes? Yes, to be opposed. Oh, I saw, did you want to be before this opposed as well? Yes, okay. I didn't know somebody else raised their hand. Okay.
We have 10 in the affirmative and 1 in the negative. Council Watson-Feld.
Thank you, Councilor Presnewski. I think, as I understand this, the police support the prohibition of no right turn on red at New Derby to Washington. Is that correct? We're all in agreement there. Okay. The fire chief has made a statement against that prohibition. So we are now having a conversation around turning off of New Derby onto Washington towards this beautiful building where we are now. I am in agreement with the police in support of this prohibition at that stop. And I will tell you why. Because without it, we have congestion. With it, we have congestion. That is a problem, right? That intersection in and of itself, holistically, all of Riley Plaza is a massive problem, but that turn, as we have seen time and time and time and time again, is difficult to cross. You cannot see. People can't even take their green lights because that is already backed up in every direction approaching Washington in that. It's not just the right, but people are constantly taking that right. They're coming through the intersection. They're coming from Norman onto Washington. That is a nightmare location. And it's really, really dangerous. It's really dangerous for drivers as much as it is, I mean, not as much as it is, it's definitely more dangerous for pedestrians. One of my biggest concerns about not giving any breathing room there with the right on red prohibition would also be that it could potentially continue to increase the problem of visibility of pedestrians, not only there at that intersection, specifically with people that are in chairs or lower to the ground, children, but also at the next crosswalk at the Dunkin' Donuts just up. I look to you and your genius to figure out how to solve the Riley Plaza problem. I think there is, I think there are sign options we need to look at. I think that the chief of fire has made very fair concerns that the backup could go all the way to the Lafayette intersection. I want to see that turn addressed, full stop, period. In the interim, I do want to move forward with the prohibition of right on red at that corner. And I appreciate the PD's support of that one. Thank you. Oh, and then across the street, we have the right southbound, Washington to Norman prohibition. The police do not support that prohibition. Again, in this instance, I would say because of the dynamics of other pedestrian crossings, including the one just up from the sort of the edge of the Dunkin' Donuts property across to the post office, the right on red there, I find really concerning. That one is also a backup no matter what we do, although less so, and people are constantly blocking the crosswalk there. So I would want to keep it as is. I will say I'm open to conversation on that one a little bit more than the other one. So if the public safety folks want to add additional thoughts on specifically that turn off of Washington onto Norman, I'm open to it. But my instinct is to keep it prohibited.
So the motion to change to keep Washington to Norman as is.
There's no motion.
Okay, all right. And
To change it based on
and the other intersection is New Derby turning right on Washington.
And again, no change because they drew that one.
Okay?
Move on.
Okay. Councilor Cohen.
Okay, I'm going to address the mill.
First, hold on a second. Councilor Hapworth.
I mean, Councilor, but yeah, so I would say, so this is we're ready to move on to the Mill Hill stuff, the final one.
Yeah, the first two of mine, I think you covered them, so the next one, I think the third one I have, Canal Street, northbound of Washington.
Yep, so northbound, Canal Street, northbound Canal Street to eastbound Washington, and then southbound Washington to westbound Mill Street.
Councilor Cohen.
So one thing I want to mention, the Mill Street to southbound Canal is not, we didn't remove that one.
That's not on here.
Yes, so we didn't remove that. I know the police support what we had put in. The question I have on where Canal to Washington, which is kind of weird because Washington takes a left, where the record exchange is. And maybe police and fire can talk about this. One of the issues is that Canal Street is 3 lanes. You take a left, there's a left lane only, and there's a specific light to that. And then when the other 2 lanes have the green light, there's no right light or anything. And most people are in the rightmost lane are going straight. Very few people are taking a right onto Washington Street. And it's kind of a, chicken who can get onto North Washington quicker, because then it squeezes into like 1 lane basically. Because if you keep going on Washington Street, you could take a right around the hotel at Dodge Street. So I'm just giving you my feedback. I don't see a whole lot of people who take a right, to go to southbound Washington. you guys have an opinion? Because that's why I agree with the police about not changing that.
Chief Dion.
Thanks, Council Cohen. I agree with that straight lane thing. It looks like if you're in that middle one and there's someone on your right, everybody darts to fight for that lane. I was voicing this intersection as a concern because Atlantic Ambulance has brought that to my attention. They have trouble getting through there, and I'm just fearful that if we change anything there, it could exacerbate what they're already experiencing. I know what you're talking about. I often am in the right lane, and I drive myself to the left. Okay. But it happens.
Everyone does.
But
that's the quick way to get.
It might be one of those intersections we should put some of those dotted lines to show where everybody should go. But that's, sorry, Dave. I'll stay in my lane. But that intersection is not one I'm going to die on. It is just one that I added.
Did you say die on?
Oh, Jesus. It's getting late. I won't die on that hill. I will not die on that Mill Hill intersection. All right. But it is a concern. And of course, when we do look at the dynamic signals, we should be doing both of those intersections.
I'm just going to offer this up if it's okay. I just don't want to change it. You know, I support the police thing on this just because no one's taken a right. Very few people are taking a right. And it's people who are tourists, they don't know where to go. People who know where to go are doing what you were, which I do too. Everyone does who knows how to get there, and then everyone's fighting to get to the left lane.
To go to Norman Street.
To go to Norman Street. So I think this is more of a design of the intersection than it is changing the right and red. So yeah.
I don't see a need to vote on this one.
Okay.
I'll talk about the other Mill Hill one if you'd like. Southbound on Washington, take a right onto Mill Hill towards the shelter. If we allow that to back up, which it will, many cars come over from Derby, New Derby, and head out that way to go to Jefferson Ave. Oftentimes, we come out of the fire station, if we make our way through that intersection and take the left to head over to Jefferson Ave. If we're not able to jump in that right lane and the vehicles are all turning right there, we're not getting through. Because there's going to be 2 lanes of traffic, 1 lane waiting to turn up through Mill Hill to Washington, and the other lane waiting to go to Canal. So if we could remove that prohibition, that would be.
I'd like to hear from the police if that's all right.
Certainly.
Because.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's one we hadn't considered the fire users, so I think we should hear their concerns. They are more sensitive to traffic backups because of the vehicles. In this, if that's going to be an issue, that could be. In terms of allowing a right on red there, the one concern we had was Mill Street receives a lot of traffic from Washington, and then a slightly lesser amount from Canal. We were a little worried about being backed up. Not to go off topic, that we have an idea for the bottom of Mill Hill, bottom of Mill Street at Margin, which we won't get into now, but might alleviate that. So, we don't have any real strong feelings on this one. So.
I'll just give my feedback in case anyone else from the council. At South on Washington, West on Mill, I hardly ever see cars, regular vehicles do that. And I would actually defer to you, Chief Dion, that if it's an emergency vehicle thing, because I really don't see a lot of cars doing that, because we've talked about this at meetings. Cars who want to go that way go around Riley Plaza. They take a right on Norman Street and they go past the post office. They hardly ever keep going on Washington Street. I mean, have you noticed that? I just, so I'm supporting, you taking yes for an answer?
I don't think any of the vehicles coming down Norman Street are taking a right onto southbound Washington and then taking a right onto Mill Hill. The vehicles I'm talking about are coming from Derby, and they're moving the traffic. Instead of waiting to go through the intersection and take the left in front of the post office, they're moving through the intersection, taking the immediate left and going up to Mill Hill and taking that right turn.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying because I see so few cars doing that, like when I've sat on, Council Marcillo and I have like sat at that intersection because there's so many things going on and there's like a flashing signal, whatever. I'm okay with accepting the fire recommendation for that because I think most of the people who are coming from Washington are going in front of the post office to get to that place. That's what I'm saying. So I don't see a whole lot of traffic there, but if it's a matter of emergency vehicles, I think that's fine. That's just me. So I'm going to move to accept the fire report.
Second.
Councilor Cohen moves the support. The recommendation by the fire department for Washington, turning right, South Washington onto Mill. All those in favor? All those opposed? That stays the same. Councilor Hapworth.
Okay, well, I think that's it. Is there one? Is there another
Last one, Lafayette Street, northbound at Derby, eastbound.
Oh, is it up higher? Let's see.
Last bullet on my list.
That's Council
Lafayette Street, northbound, Derby, eastbound, so turning.
Coming from Wendy's and taking a right onto New Derby. If I could speak on that.
Yeah, okay, I don't see it.
Yes.
Again, with Atlantic Ambulance, they come down Lafayette Street to head to the Bridge Street neighborhood, Common neighborhood, and the Willows neighborhood. They come down Lafayette Street. Lafayette Street backs up to Harbor Street regularly, and the only relief that's there right now is that right turn. And the cars take it regularly, and I get it. Yeah, there's pedestrian conflicts, but I just am so uncomfortable stopping that right turn right now. I'm fearful that it's going to back up well past Harbor Street, and the ambulance will be calling in with their code.
Yeah.
To tell us they can't get through traffic. If we could keep that one open, that would also be another one I would advocate for dynamic signaling.
Councilor Cohen, I believe that's yours. Councilor Driscoll.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. I agree with Chief Dion wholeheartedly on that. We could use one of those new sign lights there. I think that would work perfect. It's a very wide intersection. It does have good sight lines. So I definitely agree with them.
You make a motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to keep that, remove it. No, is it right? No. Remove it.
Remove it from the list and accept the public safety's recommendation. Councilor Driscoll makes the motion to remove Lafayette southbound.
Lafayette, no.
Lafayette.
Lafayette northbound to Derby eastbound.
Lafayette northbound to Derby eastbound. Keeping the intersection open by allowing right on red. All those in favor? I'm sorry. Still under discussion. Well, Councilor Driscoll made the motion. Seconded by Councilor Harvey. Under further discussion, Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. Through you to the fire chief. I just wanted to ask if that is one of the ones that will be a priority for the dynamic signage, because I do witness a lot of reckless right turns, even whether it's allowed or not at that corner. So I just didn't know if that will be one of the priority intersections for requesting signs.
I feel like I've hung a hat on my head. I will take on this mission for the dynamic signage. I've already spoken to the mayor. He has sent a memo out to the chief and I for requests for traffic equipment that would increase safety, whether it's signals for Townhouse Square, additional flashing crosswalks and dynamic signalage for the key intersections. So
Yeah, that's definitely a
I will
tricky
work
one.
with Lieutenant Tucker, and we will have our list ready to go, and then I'll do what I do best and hound the mayor for money.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing that one on the list.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on Councilor Jerslow's motion to keep northbound Lafayette Street to eastbound Derby Street remain allowable right on red as recommended by Public Safety? All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Councilor Hapworth.
Okay, I think that's it now. Okay, so I will move for first passage as amended.
Councilor Hapworth moves for first passage as amended. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Let's see, going back to this book. Councilor Morcillo.
I move for adjournment.
Councilor Morcillo moves for adjournment. Any objection? We are adjourned.